The painting that I did is a Mexican singer and a wonderful actress, famous Lucha Villa. She's well known in Latin America and in Europe. I decided to paint her. I used to be a makeup artist for celebrities, and one of them was Lucha Villa. I met her in the TV show I was doing makeup for, which was Cara a Cara with Maria Laria for Telemundo television stations. And Lucha Villa came for an interview at her show promoting her fifth anniversary career, and she was celebrating with a special record album, like a long play they used to call them, and it was called 25 años de lucha. Her name Lucha was Lucha because her name was a nickname for her name, Lucia, and Villa because of Pancho Villa, and she was from the same state as Pancho Villa. And Lucha Villa came to the show, and then and she hair and makeup at the time, which I left for acting. I left that profession for acting. I changed, but I was enjoying it at the time, and I decided to ask her if she also want her hair done, and she didn't know I was a makeup and hairstylist both. And she was very surprised, and she told me, "Oh, it's the first time I met someone who can do both things." And then she says, "Would you like to work with me? Because I really like the way you done my makeup and my hair." And she asked for my card, and that's how I started working with her. I started working on doing her makeup for movies and commercials and live concerts. And I became like her son. At the time, my mother had died, and then she kind of adopted me because she was exactly my mother's age. She was born in 1932. And she took me, and I became like her friend, close friend. I even managed some of her presentations, and I memorized the music along with her for new songs. And I became good friends with her friends, like a famous Juan Gabriel, who was her composer, and she was his favorite interpreter. And Lola Beltran, also, all the biggest one. And she was friends with famous writer, Nobel Prize Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and famous painter Rufino Tamayo, who had drawn a paint of her for the CD. So it was like it was for her album. I'm sorry. And then it happened to be I started working with her for a long time. We traveled all over Mexico and other countries. We went to Colombia, Venezuela, and at that time, the mariachi Vargas de Tecalitlan, who was a number one mariachi in the world, and the first one, it was they started to have a 100 years celebration anniversary, and they was gonna have a tour, and the tour was going to be worldwide. It was including all the countries, and Lucha Villa was the female guest for the concert. So the tour started here in San Diego at the university, something, but it was here in San Diego, and we had everything already prepared for the tour. But then before that, like a week before, someone called me and told me to turn on the news. And I turned on the TV, and I turned to Televisa. It was talking about Lucha Villa, and I was very surprised because she was not welcome to Televisa anymore, because she was not exclusive of Televisa anymore. So they didn't talk much about her. But that morning they were talking, and then I was very surprised when I heard the news that Lucha Villa, it was in a coma, and she was in Monterrey, Mexico, and she had a bad surgery that it went wrong, and she went on a coma, and they tried to wake her up, and she didn't come back, and she stayed there for 2 weeks. And when her daughters went to see her at the hospital, one of her daughters put water on her lips, and then she woke up. And when she woke up, she didn't remember anything. She forgot. She had no memory, and it happened that she had a liposuction, and the grease that was they were removing went to block her arteries, and then she had no oxygen, and then she was that's why she became a coma, and she lost her recent memory. And so at the concert, I was there, and the mariachi announced that Lucha Villa was gonna be okay, and she was going to be a part of the concerts and the tour, but it never happened. She never really was the same person anymore, and I was devastated because the plans and all the memories. Suddenly, she was not there no more. Then I decided to paint her, and I was using the same colors that I used to use when I was doing her makeup on her face. And I said, I'm gonna do a painting because I don't do portraits really. It's not really exactly her, but it has some of her, the way she did her makeup, the way that she likes, flowers and the pyramids and everything about Mexico. She was very proud. And she was the first woman to wear the charra, which is the female suit for mariachis women singers. And then she had a maid for herself, and it was popular until someone of her comadres, which is famous also singer and actress Irma Serrano, who was her comadre because she was the godmother of her youngest daughter, Maria Jose. And then she came out with the mariachi as a mini skirt, with a mini skirt, and then she changed, but she was the first one to wear the charra. So Lucha, I started painting, and then it's been really taking me a long time to finish it. I didn't know why I was painting, but then in Vengalis and the series, the SMARTLYS, Cheli, our writer and creator of the series, came up with the idea that Vengalis is taking art class. And I was really surprised because I didn't know why I was painting this, because everything that happened in my life, it happens for one reason. So I decided to keep painting and painting. And then when she asked me if she can use one of my paintings, I just had the painting ready. And it was just amazing. And it came out, and everybody, when they see the painting, they say it's Lucha Villa. Lucha Villa is not only a singer, but she's also an actress, and she's won all the awards. And right before her the accident she's been in, the Cannes Film Festival, she was sent by the government of Mexico, and she was competing for best foreign films with a movie named Lolo. And she did very good among all the celebrities, and she started to be very international. And but when that happens, everything just ends right there. And when the president of Mexico at the time was Salinas de Gortari, they sent her a check for $5,000 only, and she was saying, he thinks I'm gonna sleep under the palm trees because this is not too much. And it was true because she makes so much money, and then she always had more than that. So this painting is gonna be it's for sale actually, and but it's very hard for me to sell it. But it's already in some galleries in Mexico. Well, website, online galleries, of course. In Lucha Villa, I went the first time I went to see Lucha Villa. It was very hard for me because they had a tribute to her on the capital of the state where she was born, is Chihuahua, and she was born in oh my god, I forgot. And then they had a tribute for her, and I was invited by the government and her family. And then when I saw her coming out from the limousine where she was transported from the airport to the event, I went to talk to her, and she would not recognize me. And it was I was just crying because it was so, I was always with her, and I was like, and then suddenly she doesn't know me. And then I went till the next day. The next day I went to the hotel, and she was having breakfast. And then I entered the room, and she says, she looked at me, but she didn't say anything. And then she was being fed because she could not eat by herself. So a person was feeding her. And then I went to do her hair and her makeup as one of the last things I knew I was gonna do for her, and I did her. And then before that, she looked at me and she says, "Oh my God, it's you, Cheli." And then I was just so happy to be recognized by her. And then she says, "Oh Cheli, I'm gonna be well soon, and I'm gonna start a new tour, and I want you to do my hair and my makeup because you're the only one person that really pleased me." and I'm gonna start a big tour. But I knew it wasn't gonna happen, and the whole world knew because she was in Cuba for treatments, and she was all over for the best hospitals and doctors. But she never got well, and Cuba helped her a little bit. And at moments, she hold my hand, and then she would not let me go. And all the celebrities start coming to her room to say hi because they had a concert for her, all her friends in front of the palace, government palace in Chihuahua, and they all were singing for her. It was a famous singer, Beatriz Adriana. It was Carmen. No, it was Marco Antonio Muñiz and all of her friends. And then all came to see her at the room, but she didn't recognize anyone. She was, yet they just tell her their names, and she goes, oh. But she had no emotion. She did not recognize any of the big celebrities, but only recognizes me. And then at what point she says, I'm sorry, excuse me, I have to go with Cheli because he has to do my hair and my makeup. And we just stayed together. We enjoy it, and we remember things that I knew she was, recognizing me. And I was so happy just to have her back. And she told me in a moment, Chili, I knew what happened is my fault. And it was very devastating to see her that she was aware of what was going with her. And I saw her the next time when she was they had a monument of her on her town in Camargo, Chihuahua. Is her town. They had a monument of herself, bigger, the biggest things as a building, and they put it at the entrance of the town of her hometown, and it's still there. She's holding a rooster, or and then for the movie El Gallo de Oro, which was one of her most memorable movies. And also she made the movies El Lugar Sin Límites, and she won many prizes for that. And Lagunilla Mi Barrio, and Fiscal de Hierro, where she was performing for, it was like a 5 movies. And that was her last movie. Actually, writers have the privilege to predict the future. And the writer, who is also my friend, Carlos Valdemar, he's a script writer and a movie director. And he discovered me as an actor. And I started working with all his films. He made famous movie La Niña de la Mochila Azul, and he was writing for all her movies. And he wrote a movie called Final Encounter, and it happened to be her last movie. Actually, I went to with her to Mexico City when they made the movie. We were filming in a hacienda, and the co-leader was Mario Almada, like a Western actor. And they made the movie, and that was the last movie. She went to Cannes Film Festival on the middle of the filming, and then I went back to my house, and I came back when she came back, and we finished the movie, and that was the last movie she made. And that's how Lucha Villa actually now lives in San Luis Potosi with her daughter Rosa Miller and her grandchildren, and her other daughter Maria Jose. She doesn't live there. She has one son and 2 daughters, and 3, I think, 4 grandchildren. And she lives peacefully. She has been well cared. She lives in a hacienda, and she has her nurse that takes her all the time. Her name is Ricarda, which is also my friend. And I often call her house and ask about her, and she comes to the phone to me, and she speaks a little bit. And I just wanted to be healthy. She's healthy, and she's well, and I just wish her the best. And I say hi to everybody for her, all her fans, because she cannot say it, but she always talk about her fans. And I just wish her the best. Thank you for the interview.
Thank you, Chili.
Turn it off.
You know what? Yeah, that is excellent. And I'm thinking